a more comfortable placing, getting off the starter's block early, very important for a team whose org has made it clear. If they do not ascend, they're done.
Agreed. Also, by the way, shout out to White to allow me to cast with one of the greatest
play
casters.
It's not our team, it's all good.
But yeah,
I was like, listen, little bro. Listen, little bro. You sit back here for a sec. Let me get my hands dirty.
Yeah, so anyways, as you were mentioning, though, TSM has been working quite hard, and Adeska has mentioned it too, that they've put a lot of practice even going into this matchup by playing .Funhaver just recently. But the only map that they've lost in the whole series or the whole tournament was actually on Haven against Dynamo, so there is a little bit of weaknesses there, and they haven't had too many reps against a Cubert Academy with this type of composition overall with the Vice, but they are already going for pressure towards the C site, and Alvin Boys already down.
God, that fault line really just doesn't come quickly enough. That's the tough part for TSM with this comp having to be a bit more reactive. Cubert hit the ground running, already onto this C site, forcing TSM to the very unenviable sort of retake scenario. And having your garage position overwhelmed like that is a bit of concerning conditioning for later on, as Cubert have clearly demonstrated no respect early.
At least they have 2 flashes available for 7 for the retake, and looks like they're gonna wait after this orb before they can flood back in.
That relay bolt now, of course, those shots are coming through to try and buy a bit more space in the back of the site. Timontina already gone down, but this is a nice little backstab coming through Garage. Already, Cubert though up and on this site. They stave off TSM comfortably, who of course go for a pretty standard 2-pronged retake attempt, but they get caught in the bottleneck at the back of C.
I agreed, because for TSM, you try to put some work into what Cubert Academy kind of does on this map as well when they're playing on Haven, or you start up with a 4-1. You know, they've mentioned Lemon Kiwi saying that there is some sort of weakness by having a Vice into this composition, so you don't have active information on that middle walkdown. But you guess that it's going to be a 4-1 prong or just a split into the C site. They guessed wrong. They put a lot of pressure towards that B site, but you kind of left Alvin or playing solo instead of playing soft on that C site to get information, and it's very hard to retake at that point. And Cubert Academy looks like they don't want to stop any time soon. They're already going for a fight into the A, as we're talking about that aggression that brings in towards that A site. At least GMD finds the timing here.
Yeah, but can he actually make use of it? Because Satellite might be able to see across here. I don't think he'll be ready to come on to swing out like this. He takes a hit though, so that Marshall's already gone to work. Gotten some decent damage down. Notice no plant quite yet. Cubert want to get back towards the back of this A site. I'm going to smoke towards Heaven. That'll lock it down. Alvin Boy first out last round. Now last in. It has to contend with 3 stingers. And a heck of a lot of veterancy here for the 3 remaining attackers.
Yeah, luckily enough, when Cubert were spread off to go for this plant towards this A site, the one that was actually being checked towards the sewers was Knights, but he has to face off against 2 players at low HP. So this should be quite a done deal for Cubert Academy to convert here into the second round. Again, we talk about some good timings as they're trying to disrespect the Viper wall that's being thrown up from Cubert Academy. Although this could be something that could be taken advantage of once TSM moves into these gun rounds, as you know, you've already seen 1-2 players find that gap towards that bottom of the sewers. It's already being pinged out at that moment. So I'm assuming this time, as it's a bonus round for Cubert Academy, they still want to go with relentless action, but this time by allowing Redux to open up here towards the sewers with the relay bolts.
I like what we saw from Gimon there, at least trying to get up sewer, as he knew Cubert would be hitting them pretty quickly from the A side of the map. It can be frustrating, right, if your opponents are playing at this level of pace to get your breach util lined up adequately. Here though, Timo can spot out, and it did look like 7 was lined up for a fault line if there was going to be a full commitment, but it is lobby control assumed by Cubert, and then they pull the plug.
He had some deep pings too. Look at that. They are definitely going for this smoke into probably the C ramp and just pressure towards that C link. And there is only GMD there, but it's GMD with a Phantom, and that could be still good enough to hold up that push.
Alvin will be up here over towards Cubby. Camera flashed and removed already into Garage. A lot of control here with the Cypher playing over towards the C long now. All that util's off the map. Here comes Cubert so easily breaking through on this C side of the map with that walk up Garage. It feels like Alvin feels very spread thin on this part of the map. Now TSM are going to break back in. They've got an Odin here on 7, but he's not in a position to make best use of that weapon. They might just be calling a cancel here.
You're already seeing them running back towards that A site there for Timotino and also on Bora. You have to respect the push forward by Alvin Boy as he realizes that his camera gets broken up and that there's a lot of numbers rushing here into the garage. He's just looking for that one-on-one fight. And that would potentially be a great opportunity for TSM to retake that C site if it takes control of that long A. But you are playing against Nismo. Nismo has always been excellent now on Haven since this role switch onto this Vice. And then even unfortunately here, you see that Seven's not able to save his weapon into the next round. So that's going to render things even more expensive and difficult for TSM to try to turn things around here onto the next. But sometimes these two rifles could do enough. You've seen even in the VCTs here, Uber, that when you have these teams going to eco rounds, sometimes you have a player or a hero rifle or now even upgrading to 2 hero rifles and then just keep the economy right so you can continue to purchase into the next round. But just before we got into the replay, you saw that there's still a small shield buy across the field. So they are gambling into the trust that they have in the game plan to fight against Hubert within this round.
They're forcing into this.
Yeah.
Interesting look. And for Hubert, like, it's just well worth the money to push 2 rifles in the direction of the Odin player because Knights was on a stinger anyway. It's his upgrade. Timo's going to be pinged out here, so forced to stay tucked for the time being, but Relay Volt's going to dig him out. He's able to dash across at least, but that's that A main control given up. Hubert here as well can, again, cut noise and work a different part of the map, like they did in that last round. The noise cut part definitely is in effect. We'll see how TSM look to respond if they look for a re-clear. Cuba hoping to catch someone out doing just that.
Yeah, the good news is that there's still great utility on the side that's still available for TSM for that type of walk contact that Hubert Academy might try to do here at the minute mark. As you see, that minute mark comes up and nobody's really moving around, so it now comes down to Hubert to really try to make a play. They're just going to go for the all-out recon into the A site and see how many they can find within that spot.
Vora in that corner might be pretty impactful, but okay, so they actually invest a little bit more, Cubit, and still end up leaving that A side. Hoping to draw a couple of rotators across. They're going to need to get into B pretty quickly, but they don't have that garage control. Gimon almost able to capitalize, but isn't able to connect, and Seven will just bully his way out of the site. What a paranoia catch there. Gimon sets that up beautifully. Cubit running low on time, didn't get what they were looking for early in the round. Looked to force the issue and run headlong into some of that util that you mentioned was maintained from the early round.
Yeah, and the issue for Hubert Academy is when they tried to sell that fake towards the A side by leveraging that recon dart with the fast lane onto A, there wasn't enough inserts coming through from, you know, Nismo playing over towards that C site or even having Caillou looking down towards that garage. There was never any real pressure for TSM in that mid round. They were just trying to play based off the utility that Alvin Boy was setting up across the map. None of it really got broken. None of it really got pressured. So you're not really pulling out some real rotates on that flank or on the fake. And worse comes to worse, even worse than that rather, is you're hitting into the B site where, well, it's going to be easier for you to retake as a team because now you have a 2-timer prong from the defensive side that just denied everything there from Hubert.
Now Hubert realized they actually need to work the map a little bit more behind that noise cut on the A side.
Correct.
Get into garage, but there's risk associated with that, obviously, like having to contact those ankles or just walk up in a garage. Many of you will know, not exactly a attractive prospect. Either way, Timo actually wants to go pretty deep here, and Knights does TP across. That was what that recon was set up for. Tries to get out, but Gimon's going to catch him there over towards Sewer. This is going to break down into a mess. On the run, Satellite is able to fail 7. And as this dark cover clears, Bora has to do more, and he does. What a transfer. Leaving Nismo in 1 versus 2 with the operator in hand, but the spike across the way. He'll have to cross into Vora's sight line to recover this.
Doing a little bit of Zelsis with a Vice up on the attack. Good news is, though, he's still playing a 1 versus 1. He doesn't know that yet, but he has to be really safe on clearing his corners.
Opening change with position given up. Vor very low after that. Nismo obviously concerned about the timing that he might be on, but Alvin and Vora are doubled up here. Spike recovered. And Nismo can try and imply that he's sort of pulled this out and gone elsewhere. Curious to see where TSM look to fall back if they want to actually anchor on this A site. No. Doubling up in Sewer instead, but Nismo has given up the game. He does have Razor Vines to work with, but getting them deployed, getting them activated under this level of time pressure.
30 seconds left.
Might be too much to ask.
Do you think he sold the fake? He threw the flash here towards middle and sees nobody there. Should be an easy backstab for the last 2 players on Sewers.
There's no way he's going to check this, surely. Alvin does not see a barrel as far as we can tell. Nismo now has to, whip around. There's too many possibilities. Nismo was hoping once again that a noise cut with nothing behind it would be enough to drag the two players across the map.
That's the patience on TSM too, understanding how to play that 2 versus 1. You keep that buddy system, and even on top of that, Alvin Boyd placed a trip on long A. So even if they hear that flash towards middle, they don't care. If you have a plant coming through from Nismo, they're still going to play as a group and play that 2 versus 1. But as he breaks that trip, you saw how it happened. TSM had full control and reads of where Nismo was going to play that pulse plant scenario here all over on that A site. So that's a little bit of a silver lining and some grace now for TSM. You talked about a heavy investment going from that previous round, small shields and rifles across the board. That would have forced him on an eco this round. And now even 7 has an Odin to work with, and he's looking to spam this into the sewers. Falls back now.
That was a shocky that was sent in the lobby, caught out by some of the spray down through the smoke. Knights credited for it. But again, it's that heavy lobby presence here for Qubit. This time they get a bit of a freebie. And we'll mill around a little bit with Nismo potentially testing this sewer spot. Alpha knows he needs to get a bit more active here, but if he gets dug out, well, it's on for young and old over at the A side.
If they're able to find this timing through the flash from Nismo too with this timing, they would be in a great spot.
Alvin second guesses himself, wonders if there's actually someone back towards the side. What had to have been a TP across the trap wires. He wins that fight out. So that is the end of Nismo over towards the suicide. Timo's got such a nice backstab position. He's given up the game. Doesn't even get a kill for it. Timo, at least just as the smoke blooms, is able to find one. This is going to throw a spanner in the works now for Qubit. 43 seconds, and they're headed up towards A. Very exploratory now is the Viper player getting over towards this A side of the map, but that util left by Alvin Boy is still in place.
Exactly. He pulls up the camera so they know at least the Cypher setup's on A, but TSM's okay to play the soft. They have a Rolling Thunder to retake 7's full utility as well. I think for Qubert, understanding this, they probably have to start pushing towards that spawn and cut those rotates, where exactly Satellite is trying to play around his smoke. But now as he tries to hold towards Hell, that might be difficult here for Qubert to hold.
Yeah. Still has to be a straight retake, though, on the A side. Never an easy prospect. Satellite waiting, but the shorty sees it up. Alvin Boy is down, and 7 is not quick enough on the trigger finger to respond. That's a Viper's Pit earned and deployed instantly, and I think that's going to be a save.
Yeah. Hard to retake the site with Timo on an operator. That big play, like I said, it had to be holding and cutting that lines towards that spawn. And I was mentioning that win con coming out here from Satellite, moving towards Hell, was going to potentially make Qubert lose that scenario, lose this pulse plant scenario. But he thinks differently and makes the correct play. Holding back towards that spawn, punishing Alvin Boyd, trying to walk back through, and not allowing TSM to get any value whatsoever with that Rolling Thunder. And you just mentioned here, Mitch, something that GMD was doing. He had the game, that round in his pocket. He had such good trigger discipline when they were on that eco, and he inserted himself on the top of sewers. But this time right there, just that he's just focusing to try to get that headshot. And as soon as he's about to pull the trigger, you see that move up from Redux, and it just throws him off his aim and throws him off the spray transfer, and Hubert's able to salvage that round.
Yeah, just phantom things there. Saw the dink, but it's not enough. Now again, that A pressure from Qubit. Last time I'd say they get a little fortunate. They had to take what amounted to a spam kill. The recon that does at least light up the neon, but Redux is safe where he is, so he's able to cross over this A main part of the map and maybe even be an insert for later on. And you'll note that elsewhere, there's just no real exploration of the map here for Qubit. Very much default, very passive, hoping for a walk up out of garage that is not likely to happen.
Yeah, they're just expecting continuous A hits or C-side prongs, which while they're playing this 3-2 setup, they're counting on this util once again from Alvin Boyd to get the active information in garage and B, again, because they still have the Rolling Thunder to work with. I respect now Timo walking down this line. This allows TSM to set up a little bit more deeply into middle.
Not anticipating the insert of the neon, though. It won't be relevant in the end as Redux inches forward. So there's a smoke. That stall util being drawn out of TSM slowly, and a lot of map control has been garnered on that C side. But of course, shield wall will alert Qubit should TSM try and push off that mark. So that's probably as far as they get for the time being. Here's that now attempt over towards this A side of the map. Timo playing a more safe angle, but misses that first shot. Redux can dance the fast lane and get in with this ultimate. Under heaven, no good. Bora's able to deal with him now. Timo under serious pressure. And it's a smoke up heaven side. Gimon forced to drop out of it and take a fight. This time, though, sticks the landing for 2. And crashing into the Odin is 7. Satellite, though, is left free here. He knows he's got limited time. Not only get the plant down, but to have this 1 versus 1, he needs to dig 7 out on the site. Gets him and will plant in the nick of time.
Oh, and he even gets the perfect read on the plant, at least the guessing towards that spawn. He's going to be able to get that plant down safely. Alvin Boy on the alert from sewers. And it seems as though Satellite has the perfect read. He holds the tightest angle possible to watch that flank.
Is he going to get fortunate, though, with the angle that Alvin takes? He has the first shot. And Alvin's able to win it out. Walk away with a little bit of health. And a very grindy round there. Cubit really slow. Ultimately deciding on that A hit. Happy to brawl with the anchor players and the op inside. But Alvin has recovered that for the next round. And TSM post their third.
Slow start with Timotino with an op. Unorthodox for him to miss 2 shots like that. But at least you see how he's also becoming the sacrificial lamb. He's just telling 7 to ult into the site. He doesn't care if he gets hit at the same time. It'll slow down the hit. It'll allow TSM to flood back in. GMD goes for also the big play to surprise even 2 players on top of that. And allows here Alvin Boy to isolate and separate a 1v1. He who got shut down by Nisbo the first time he was going into a duel fight down at the bottom C, but his last 2 1v1s was shown to be fruitful for the side of TSM and also keeping the gap close. Hubert still has money to work with, though. They're going to leverage a lot of these ults around the 2 Guardians of Caillou and Nisbo so that they could swing the momentum back in their favor.
You got the flexibility of a ultimate up the Knights this round, so can be absolutely wherever is needed. And Cubit know walking up on this B side of the map that this stall util is a given. Saw that last round from TSM and it definitely affected the decision making to go towards A again. Aldron gets in there, likely spotting the bridge close. It's going to be Vori yet again. Once more through smoke, but Steel Garden comes down and 7 cannot extricate himself in time. Knight's comfortable enough here, but here comes that Hunter's Fury from Vora. Oh no! Okay, Caillou. All right, man. Happens to the best of us. Even with the team damage reduction of that Hunter's Fury. Still takes Knights down, who was peppered heavily on that B side, and still no plant. Re-clear with the Aldrone spots Caillou on the walk up.
And then you've expended your 2 big also try to take over that B site. Thankfully, the Viper's still up here. It will at least screen out the A connector that allows for you to plant into B.
Timo just waits on this one. Caillou is lit with Vora. Not quick enough, it doesn't seem to matter. Low health, he takes Nismo down anyway. Now Caillou's got some amends to make, it's safe to say. Low as he is, Paranoia does connect, and from above, it's Timotino with the RKO. This will even up the game here. Awkward for Cubit trying to get onto this B side of the map. Eventually shut down by a Team Hunter's Fury.
Yeah. And I was ready to talk about the differences you see on how teams kind of set up against a Vice ult in Challengers versus the VCT stage, because usually you realize that when you have that ult available on your opponents, you want to pull out some shorties as your secondary. Give that chance. You're playing close range with that gap. Knock him off here with the shorty. As 7, I think, was the one that was playing front sight, only had a classic to work with, and he falls down. But thankfully, everything else around that stall, Vora playing all the way back from the spawn. I think it was even in that A-Link connector, and they were going toe-to-toe trying to get those beams out against each other. And thankfully, though, he doesn't need to get the kill because his compatriot, or his opponent Caillou, did it for him instead. So that's definitely a first time out coming and utilized on the side of Hubert Academy. That's much needed at this point, because for the first time their economy is in shatters, and also they haven't had the best control now for the last 2 rounds in the early takes that they're trying to take around the map here of Haven.
Credit to Cubit, though. Obviously they just don't really want to work the map of that particular round. They fancy a bit of pace, Aldrone into B, and then follow it up with a Steel Guard, and they have the tools for what amounts to a faster hit. If there's a world where they can get the spike down, that round likely goes far differently, being able to safely fall back to those post-plant positions. But we'll have to let bygones be bygones now. TSM looking dangerous, though. 7 still has the Odin to hand. Definitely putting up his best Brock impression already in this game. And Timo with that defense side op. So Cuba have to work that much harder now with 2 Stingers and a real smattering of different armor types here.
And he's done well with the Odin on this map in previous matchups here for TSM for sure. We talked about the flexibility. I think it was Ash that mentioned on the desk, playing Breach here, playing Chamber, and still putting up big numbers. This time, the TSM off the timeout, they still want to go very quickly back into a C-side hold.
Not the first time, though, they've gone Garage to back C here, and TSM are responding, but it's going to be quick enough. Instantly, Redux is able to get across the way, but 7 sprays him down with the Odin. And Redux is going to have no help. He realizes this, so he just swings into whatever's happening at spawn. And that's that. At the very least, Satellite can walk out of this round with a rifle, but that one sort of goes up in smoke. Cubit, give him the impression that we're just going to slam that A side over and over again until they got results. Now with a number of different variations, but the problem for them is neither are remotely successful. They have noted, at least fans, that the Cypher plays more over towards the C site, pushing up C long late in the round and not sort of occupying that garage part of the map. A very quick response from TSM with like, what, 4 players in their spawn ready to take that engagement.
That was the thing, because the last time they did that towards that ceiling push, there was also just GMD playing solo in that back, right where you're looking at him on that mini map. So it really came down to TSM having that read too from the timeout, that from a lower buy or a forced buy that Kubert might try something in terms of sticking as a death ball. They gambled that it was going to be that push towards that C side, and they were just ready for it. So I think if you're looking at the state of the game so far here, Uber, you're absolutely right in terms of how up and go for me is still a 1 year, because they're not playing with any inserts, they're not playing with any backstabs. One more time, they've mentioned it at the desk, how Mintac have good lurk capabilities around Knights, Satellite, and Nismo, but you've never seen them in these forward positions trying to go for these backstab on pulse plants. And look at it, needs to leverage those flank potential a little bit more.
We're getting the inserts over on like a main, for example, pins of the round, and in this case, not even that. Obviously, the trapwires are set up on A, so some anticipation of a faster hit, but it looks like Cubit definitely. Can they actually get anything going? Can they get an edge elsewhere on the map? Nismo is being relatively active, reinforce this garage position. They got walked up on the previous round. So both teams are trying to throw these different looks, get some variations in.
Chicken 2, you might just go for an exit and a TP towards the back of the site for more info. Even that.
Still got thwarted by the Aldron in the end. It's never to know where to go, caught right inside that razor vine. Now, the round looks vastly different. Timo caught on the outside. Spam bunch of damage. Vora also going quite low to this. Gimon again, this is characteristic. His backstab from him, he actually gets away with it because Knights is denied. There is an Odin in the hands of Satellite. Not afraid to use it, I'm sure. That's the spot for it. Caillou follows up. Finally will convert. Hewitt's quietest player so far on Haven here. Wins about this round.
And thankfully for TSM, I mean, for Kubert Academy, they have
one enemy remaining.
There for Kubert to tie thing where they went for small shields just like TSM did before around rifles. They converted that one. And now with their sodomy.
Just a great opener there from Gimon as a classic straight down mid-window spam. Smoke was in play, but he gets his once again. Trapwire noted. Like a fault line for him. It surely came out. Timothina pushes up behind this util. That's well set up for 7. Fred now across the map. Cubit are starting to flounder.
Oh no.
Oh god. Well, that Omen ultimate was going to come into play. You stick a TP into a site that you sort of have limited information about. Unfortunately, that's a gamble that does not pay off. And it's
I mean, why you don't even need to rotate. You're playing a 5 versus 3 in the mid round, so everybody stays pretty much in their comfortable position. How you going in the other side of the map just to try to save his weapon into the next, because we talk about how they don't have too much to work with moving into the next round. Was TSM understanding really what they're up against? You talked about this Vice here, so yeah, Timotino finds a perfect timing with the rifle to get the opener. Again, he had a very slow game so far with his op and Blade Storm, but right there, he got everything right here for the team.
I mean, that's perfect set play because that set up, I think that was a 2 or 3 player fault line from 7 that absolutely ruined them. So that's just such a sick moment for TSM to throw that kind of curveball in. But it's helped because Gimon gets that early kill, playing top boxes on B site into mid window. The Cubit is not really conditioned to expect any aggression because TSM have not been pushing off these sites at all. With the exception of maybe taking some of that C-long control, they've been pretty passive, pretty patient. Even amongst all these noise cuts from Cubit, they've not been pushing up to try and get contact-based info. Bora here comes forward a little bit, but sees that arc rose and happy enough to clear it and give that position up again. We might see another test of mid, though, from Cubit.
Agreed. With the flash not being there towards middle, TSM's already set up really to try to stuff this B site hit. They have that trip on the right side. You still have the aftershock to delay from 7. The Odin doesn't allow for them to push into the C-link. And it's, again, no lurks, no nothing. Kubert just going for a full site hit.
Okay, aftershock here to disrupt the plant. Seven is speculating right now, and it's still no stick for Cubit, but Viper comes down at just the right time. Here's the Razor Vines getting in the way. Timo, God, could have had a lot more than that. A little unfortunate there is Nismo, frankly, is given a stay of execution. Timo thinks about it, but no tailwind available for him. Nismo eventually falls, but Knight's got a nice little angle here. With the last bullet, he's able to complete that splay transfer. Now in the pit, you've got to dive if you're TSM, and it's difficult to say the least. Vora up to the task, or at least feels that way. Full post-plant positions now taken up for Cubit. Vora knows he needs to fight into mid, and it's not to be. Satellite season coming a mile off.
Dude, I can't believe that Nismo still had about 80 HP and still armor left while he was fully spotted by Timotino, wall banged on top of that, and that probably would have been the first kill that would have given a chance here for TSM to retake towards that site, because so hard to do here on that pit. You saw right there that big flash that got so much value from GMD a couple of rounds ago, and Cubert knew better to just stay outside of that radius, not get affected at all, and just full punish TSM on a flood retake. But it's a 6-6 scoreline. It's a great start for TSM on the comeback. That was a 3-0 that started off there for Cubert. And the thing is, though, is once Cubert takes the defensive side, that's going to be something difficult to deal with, because we know for a fact that we've seen for Nismo having some hot starts and great rounds as this Vice, especially on defense more than attack.
I think we're in agreement. I like what I've seen from TSM. The fact that we're in round 11 and they still have like enough in the back pocket to throw a curveball, to push off the B-side setup is really good to see. So now it's a question, though, of what their attack side calling will look like. There was an early C presence, but now a walk up on mid, and Ismo naturally is looking for a timing, but it's that loose end of Alvin Boy that could be a problem if he tries to get ahead of himself. 4-player death ball set up here. Going to inch onto the side. There's the sheer wall in play. Timo wants to draw that out, and this will at least buy time for a response from Cubit Academy, but TSM may already be looking elsewhere.
And because they're just playing roles where they can't really find cameras or anything, that recon, though, not seeing anything towards that A-Link, that should potentially allow Knights to rotate a bit. They thought that they lost the timing, though, and gave up sewers, so they're kind of just sticking there. TSM could really get the opener on C now.
This is a devious Viper wall, by the way. Yeah, I like that. All of TSM had to group up behind it now. Redux is under pressure on the site. Inside a smoker thing, Nismo Waddle Paranoid, it's hard to tell. Looks the same. They get ruined instantly. A lot of patience there for TSM. Called up like a spring. Explode onto that C side, and Cubit Academy have nothing to say about it. So far, at least.
You nailed it. It was that paranoia from GMD. Opened up that site. Great util by TSM again.
Knights is going to have a crack at this one way or another. Time has been ticking. A retake wall, no longer relevant here. Not particularly useful, but okay. Knights is just going to find two with a classic. He's given his team a chance. Satellite hoping to follow up. It's an exultant roar from Timotino as TSM post a very important pistol.
And TSM really look prepared into this game. The GMD is getting so much value out of this paranoias. 8 assists so far as an Omen player, and also topping the charts in frags and getting 2 of them in that pistol round in itself. So again, I love her moving around that map. I think once they inserted 7 on the top of B, they heard that wall. They added a little bit of pressure, so somebody throws a smoke. It's easy for them to break that wall after that and just rework the map after. And there was no reaction off the wall breaking up here for Cubert Academy. It just stood still.
All right, there's an outlaw already picked up for Timotino. It's going to be eating well, folks, if we see this conga line extend any further. This is diabolical.
Does an outlaw go through 5 players? He goes through 2.
Oh, it's carnage! Come on, why? Snatch away the ace. I really felt like Cubert were just trying to make it as easy as possible for Timo to smack him upside the head. Well, I guess we're here for a good time and not a long time.
Yeah.
Hey, oh God, he just...
Dude, I felt I was watching Mythbusters, you know?
Yes.
Like, how many...
Yeah, how many ballistics dummies can you penetrate with? I was thinking the exact same thing, bro. That's scary and a little sad if I'm me, but
why?
That's crazy.
This is good. That means you have a good brain.
Van Sass, I got a message from Wyatt as well, bro. He said, have a good cast today with Ravish, bro. Y'all are going to crush it. Prayer emoji. Next up, duo for real. Thanks, Wyatt.
Oh my gosh. That's
he never
funny.
messages me. That's nice. That's rare. He must be bored on the plane. Check your prize pics, little bro. I hope you ever see watch the real men get to work. You know what I'm saying? His TP top side of the B side. They're already swarming over it. Vans, another fast hit. That didn't quite go to plan for Satellite.
Here.
We're going to plan for Qbert at all. Well, at least he gets that kill.
Okay. Now, though, those close plant positions being taken up with him on the stall. Anchor swings on it, but Knights has been sharp with these moments of the course of this game. Let's put Qbert still within striking distance. Timo's going to be overwhelmed there. Caillou doesn't waste any time. Doesn't wait for the cloudburst to expire either. Just gets in there. It's on Vora. Qbert Academy. Foothold established. TSM trying to go for a bum rush up mid. It does not pan out.
Yeah, I was just about to say, with that snakebite missing onto the plant, it doesn't really allow for Qbert Academy to move quickly into the site, but at least Satellite is able to own up to his mistakes and even get the planter down. And you tried to go for a paranoia for a stall, but nobody really from TSM was set up to get more ground control within that B site. So you kind of just left GMD stranded towards like a deserted island. Even if he hits so many on the TP, he decides to rotate to a spot that's just too easy for him to take over. Or too easy for Qbert to take over, rather.
Yeah.
It comes around and needs a retake there.
Timo just ends up in a bit of an awkward spot to be holding an outlaw in, tucked in. But hey, that was, of course, the bonus for TSM. They still turn around for a buy. Seven still has himself an Odin, which is, it's not copycatting, it's Seven. He loves to lean in this direction at any possible opportunity. Razorvine's going to slow up the approach into this garage position, but Timo unlikely is committing here. Would like to see if he can get a little bit more for his trouble. Sanakaro's committed as well.
I like that. You're spraying the wall a lot. You're keeping those players at bay, and another one of those scenarios here for TSM where they're working the map. This time not breaking the vice wall, but just breaking that flash. Doesn't really allow for Qbert Academy to get passive information in the next 20 seconds. So you kind of just have to keep a player anchored in that spot. And you're forced now Qbert to make plays. Fastlane already came up from the sewers. People are moving around, and they feel like they have to peek for info now, which would give a chance here for TSM to get some punishes.
Just how far is Timotino going to go here? How deep is he going to try and go for this information? Looks like we got our answer. Backing up as Nismo was absolutely posted and ready to take a close fight. We're into the 42nd warning now. And Redux is trying to hold this off angle for anyone who might push up. So it's going to have to be a fast hit behind some of this breach utility.
Left.
Seven still has all of it to hand. Straight up fault line might even catch on to two here if it's done correctly and not too shabby. Here's the jump in by Timotino. They have site control straight away, but Caillou's able to hold his ground. Still tough to anchor against this kind of pressure. And now on the other side of the smoke, Redux will wait. Still a tickle, still a tap, still no stick. TSM sent Albert out of the smoke, and Vora's able to find Redux at least with a shock dart. Please plant some point. No? Okay. That's going to be Nismo burning him down to take the round.
There was definitely some lack of communication on how they wanted to take over Redux behind that smoke. You went for a tap. Nobody really sprays. They were hoping that, at least for Redux's side, he was going to spray first and they could try to capitalize on that. If not, you saw the shock darts coming through. Nobody's really following up behind it. To cross and get those instant trades. If it did come out to a couple of seconds late, but it becomes a very, very labored round one here by Qbert. They're not really out of that frying pan yet. Late storm available for Timotino. He tried to go for some pressure, and also I think it was orb control. Vora has the Hunter's Fury to work with within the round. TSM leaned at the very beginning.
And Seven turned his util usage from that first half, and TSM need to get in. Looks like it's Garage first up. There is, of course, Razorvine on the floor. Been cleared. Less to give up the attention, but Seven's able to deal with this as he goes for the swim. There. It was in the hands of Seven as he was looking for the opening, but he's very low. Lucky to get out of there alive. Alphaboy wants to push up on the site, but he's unaware. I think the Knights is tucked up in that corner, or he can't do anything about it. Great flash. That is a very good flash. And a Caillou V7 in that 1v1. The latter, with less health than his namesake, is headed over towards this A side, most likely.
He'll have time to go for the plant, and Caillou has full util to work with too. But you definitely own a 1 versus 1. You can't really use most of it because you don't want to give your position away on a rotate. So Seven here has to go for a big play with the low HP. You have to cut a rotate somewhere or play the pulse plant. And he's going to play the pulse plant instead.
Yeah, low as he is, he really needs to play for time. It's kind of risky to sort of just jiggle peek corners here, because even just a wallbang would end him. He needs to be patient. Caillou, of course, in much the same vein, is going to send the Aldrin out ahead. And the fault line. Tough to play off your own fault line in this day and age with weapon uptime, but It is something that Seven has access to. I like this. Hides away from the recon. Might be looking just to disrupt the Planetaire. What? Huh? Nani?
I was just about to say, you can't really go for your util to clear out the site. You have to go in. You have to try to find that pick. You know your opponent's at 1 HP, and he just uses the Owl Drone to fully clear out sight, and even a recon dart that doesn't see towards long, and he's just gambling that a tap is going to flush his opponent out so he can try to win it. Doesn't even try to go for the shock dart anywhere after even going for the tap. I can't believe that round was won.
Okay.
7, 8, 9, but 6 HP is enough.
That's crazy. Okay. TSM with a one round lead in this game. Caillou not able to convert. Redux spotted out early, but won't be under any pressure. It's going to be a preemptive Viper Spit towards the seaside of the map, which for TSM, not an issue. Weren't intending to head in that direction anyway. Sewer, I think, is where that contact's going to be, and it's just jiggles from Redux right now, so we can fall back and maybe pull the Omen over in their direction.
Yeah, that's going to give enough, too. I think it's only 3 players at that place, and I don't think you're going to try to commit out of that yet here for TSM. That's going to have to slow things down for a bit.
That is a very illuminating Owl Drone here, and TSM realize that they have kept these 3 players interested. A catnip over on the A side, they will now hit B instead. And that is going to force everybody, of course, to respond. 3 players set up and link here, and Cube might try and disrupt this, go for something before TSM can get set up. Yep, straight into the side.
No.
They go. Alvin deals with Redux instantly. And there's not much you can do after that. Knight caught inside the side, knows he's going to be dealing with this util. Alvin's already done his job in this round. This time, Timatina's got a much safer place to play from, and yep, we have, of course, a Rolling Thunder earned in the prior round by 7.
You're cycling smoke still right now for Qbert. You can still tap this spike and force the push.
Fault line, Timo's going to run on it in. He's taken down, but gave him on the opening he was looking for, and now he is all over it. Knights is in trouble. And here it is, TSM finally starting to come up with the goods. This is their map pick, and one we've seen from them way more than from Qbert. And so, taking this one away, going to Icebox, but we know Qbert like that no duelist strategy. It's got to feel pretty good.
It's gonna feel great. This was a perfect play here from TSM's side. Look at him sell that fake towards the A side, using even the aftershock just to try to make Qbert think that they're going for a full flood into the A site. They pivot back towards B. You have an insert, you still create a diversion. TSM GMD gets the backstab from the lurk into the garage, which again, I feel that was lacking here for Qbert on their attack side, but TSM's doing a great job in these inserts and these timings that they're finding in the post plants.
Yeah. It's honestly, it's just a slight difference, but they know they need to work other parts of the map. They can't just bank on winning the main fight. And even in that sort of post-plant scenario, it's not the fully safest, and you also can run out of util sometimes on that attack side. What's this little clumping up of players here in that garage direction? Obviously, just pistols here for the defenders. And the variation now comes up, TSM eyeing off that C site, which is completely clean, bereft of anything. No presence, no util. Would be a great call.
Looks like Qbert Academy, after every eco that the big ecos that they have, they're just trying to stay as a group. Didn't work out on the long A side, but now they still have good positioning to do some damage once they flood back into C here.
All right, here's the stick, Redux. Just wants to try and send a couple spam ones through the smoke, and this is back going the way you might expect it to. Send and deliver, says Caillou. Alvin is waiting for him, and that's a 3-round buffer opened up. It's about as big a lead as we've seen at any point on this map.
Yeah. And it was a missed window there for Qbert. They had a great job with the relay bolt to hit 2. But then going back into it, that single recon dart out from Vora really didn't allow for Qbert to continue forward because, one, some players were loading, the other ones had to break the recon, and then they just weren't as coordinated anymore to fight towards that front of that site. So, dude, TSM is looking quite good. I think now playing that tournament the previous day, I think it was yesterday, literally going through the gauntlet of the Fun Havers back to the basics tournament, is good enough here for them to be warmed up in this game, which is Still a lot here on the line for the side of TSM. They are trying to play for better seedings going into Ascension. They want to put the chances in their favor going to the group stages. Remember what happened last time, though, when TSM made it to Ascension? You talked about it, Uber and Monterey. They failed to make it out of the groups. I think they went 0-4 or something like that within their groups. So all of their games went super close and into overtime. Now they want to make sure that they continue to stay quite warm going into the games, as prepared as possible, and really try to have their opportunity to ascend for next year.
I really think, I don't think they're going to be underestimating the LATAM and Brazilian teams this time around.
No.
That was the feeling that we had. I remember, like, even when, Nismo failed to, ascend through that tournament, really heartfelt message, like, really feel like I let my family down. Like, this is, it really, really affected them. And it's another whole year in challenges with, teams coming up all around them, young players also getting their shot. I mean, we're talking about Envy, for example. Nice there. Not a great start to the round for him. That is just a once in a blue moon pick that Timo was able to find, and it paves the way for Gimon to get in there and get it planted.
They're great positions again for the pulse plant. Alvin Boy is just watching for the push towards the extremities. He's just being the one watching the back, so the rest of them could just focus towards the front. Still so much util that it could use here for the pulse plant. Aftershock, fault line, relay bolts, and then GMD again, potentially another late lurk into the garage.
Isn't quite extending that far yet. I wonder if he heard the sound of Satellite pulling out of that position. Here's the relay bolt, though. Cube, no, they need to get Redux. Busy down mid. And that, of course, was an attempt at a defuse for Caillou that is, well, predictably spammed on out. TSM now have full control of this game. Cubit Academy walking into the next round with not a lot to work with economically. Only in these modes maintained Phantom really to speak of.
He even had an op in that previous round and lost it here when they were trying to retake that site. So as you're just talking about Nismo, a player that failed to ascend with M80 in a heartbreaking BO5. Remember, that fifth map was Bind against 2G when it was almost like the permaban or the map that they could never win for the side of M80. And that's how M80's career finished pretty much for a lot of these players. And thankfully, though, a lot of them moved up into different teams in tier 1, with the exception of Nismo here. And he cannot ascend with this team, but he still wants to show that he has what it takes here, that he deserves a spot in tier 1. That rifle that he brings over is with the mustard buy that they have, half shield, guardian, and already losing Redux in the process.
Again, that's another early pick. Last round, Timo was able to find one over towards that B side of the map here. Cubit early. Whatever the protocols are off the starter's mark are giving TSM far too many edges here. And it's already a bit of a weak goodbye for them as it is.
Yeah.
TSM, so like justifiably, more of a default slant on this round.
Silver lining for Kubert is that there's no big ults for TSM in these scenarios for site takes and pulse plant. So the rifles could be good enough. And you know damn right that these 4 players still alive here in the server could do those hero moments. And it's going to be Caillou that's tested first.
Good for one, but the rest, though, could be an issue. Nicely done by Caillou. The paranoia comes in a little bit late in the day, but Gimon is still able to salvage what could have been an ugly situation. Regardless for Cubit Academy, though, it puts them at parity, at least in this round.
30 seconds left.
Knights will be waiting for an opportunity to step up here, expecting that pretty standard push towards the left side. And Timo's going to deliver it to him, just maybe not in the timing he would have liked. Gets info, but takes a bunch of damage as a result. And ultimately served up the Timo on a silver platter. It's on Satellite for the map. Vora and GMD still healthy enough, and Timo will be chilling with those blades. He is here to finish the job. And there's nothing but a Guardian to go to work with. It'll be really funny if he pulled a Caillou and just walked away without trying to.
Just play for stats.
Yeah. Play for the next map, brother. Okay. Timo was the low health player, so he's picked off easily with a body shot. But Vora and Gimon will be holding hands until the end of time, and they wait for Satellite to present an opportunity. TSM convert on their map pick. Haven comfortably their way in the end. It's a frothy affair over the first half or so, but eventually that experience and maybe just the recent competition, the fact that they're coming in warm, pays off.